So those of you who are familiar with Chrome OS. So those are the kind of people that are in that community. They're there to answer your questions. From there, we thought, what about another idea would be to actually do a podcast. We start from a Hangout on Air, and so there is a live Q&A feature on it. So if you can't join us for it, you can ask the questions and go and be there. Today we're going to talk about things that you can do to get you ready for next school year. As a GAFE admin, a lot of us are from different sized school districts. I'm from a small school district. I am the IT department. I'm the guy that goes through and has to do all the stuff. You know, anything that plugs in is my responsibility. Carl, he's from a larger school district. I like to pick on Carl. Carl has a staff.
We're talking like large in Iowa.
Thank you. Yes, large in Iowa. That's very true. We should clarify. Large in Iowa, but he has a staff.
It's 75 students and 12 cows.
And it's the cows that make them large because they're Black Angus. But I want to first talk about, my thing I want to talk about today is mass enrolling Chromebooks and how to make your life easier if you have a bunch of Chromebooks. So I'm going to give you a tip that as an individual, if you are not feeling super techy, you want the low-tech mass enroll way, I'm down with that. It's easier than hand touching every machine in every possible way, but you do still have to touch the machines in this process. So what I recommend is going out and making a Google Doc. In that Google Doc, you're going to need also a barcode scanner. Here's what you're going to end up doing. You go to a website that generates barcodes, very simple, and then you paste them in the Google Doc. If you scan these all say password. I used the same barcode. I cheated.
I did that.
Didn't really you all scanned it and saw password. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to turn the Chromebook on. You have to do the 3-finger salute, Control-Alt-E for the enrollment process. At that point, you choose the Wi-Fi SSID you want to join. And from here on out, you take a USB scanner. Your library media center probably has one. Otherwise, buy a good one. I recommend spending the money, getting a good one. I like WASP. That's a good brand. I've not found them to be uncompatible with the different models of Chromebooks we use. But then, I take this sheet of paper, I print it out and I laminate it. Why would you laminate it? Because my children help me do this, and my children like to drink Mountain Dew while they're doing this, and my children also spill because they're my children. Once it's laminated, it is much better. So they laminate it, you take the barcode scanner, boop, there's your SSID password. They hit enter, boop, here's my enrollment user email. Hit enter.
Yeah, Lance, that's
Really loud. Sorry. Boop. The enrollment user password. The nice thing is, doing it this way, if I have students do this, they don't necessarily know the password. So we can use the encrypted SSID. We can use the enrollment user. They don't ever see the passwords. They're there. So then I'm enrolling mass Chromebooks without having to type a bunch of things in fact, without fat fingering. So that's tip number one. Mass enrolling Chromebooks, print out the barcodes, get a barcode scanner, save yourself a little time. But wait, there's more.
all right. So I'm glad to see everybody survived the vendor events last night and showed up today. So my tip this month is wrapped around a much easier way than Lance's way, I think. There's actually two different solutions to this on the market now, thanks to my other brothers from another Scottish mother, Pete and Tim from Unified IT. I'll show you guys that too. So the first one is a product called Rubber Ducky. How many people in here are using Rubber Ducky? All right, so love it, I'm sure.
That makes me
right?
sad. We should have saw like a lot of brands.
There will be after today. All right, so what Rubber Ducky is, all it is a USB flash drive, and it's a keyboard emulator. Nothing more, nothing less. So what they do is they have their own scripting language. It's very easy. You go in, you tell the computer exactly what keystrokes you want to complete, right? So you go in, you fill out this script, and then this is kind of an example script. On our slide deck, I have a link to my script that I've created. I do need to update it, so there's a section in there. I've commented that section out and said it needs to be updated, so if somebody wants to contribute, that'd be fantastic. I give it away for free. I don't care if you modify it, just let me know and I'll update mine, all right? So link to my script is here. Basically, you go to this toolkit, it's linked off of my script. You walk through the keystrokes that it takes to complete whatever action that you want to complete, and then you upload the payload onto the little flash drive. So what happens is, as soon as you stick that flash drive into your machine, it runs through all of those keystrokes. So you can imagine the power of this thing, right? So not only can we go in and like create remote shells and hack, because it's basically a hacking tool, what we can do is we can go in and we can create the exact steps key by key on enrolling a Chromebook or any other process along the way. So what I'm working on right now, and it's not done yet, this script will go in and successfully enroll a Chromebook and it'll shut it down. But what I envision it being in the future is enrolling it, signing in, going to the settings, updating Chrome OS, and as soon as it's finished updating, shutting it down. So that process, it can happen. There's no problem. You can do that with this. Right now, I just don't have the logic built that far down yet. I've been really busy this summer, so I don't have that logic completed. The tricky part about this is you can come in here and you have to kind of change these delays. So different sections of the enrollment process based upon your wireless, based upon latency with Google, things like that, could change those delays in your script. The really nice part about Rubber Ducky is anybody can figure this out. My second grader can come on here and figure out what's going on in the script, right? It's very English-based, easy to modify, easy to change, so you can change these delays. Now, the only reason my script is a little messy is because as I did the process, I'd add more delays just because I needed them. You can make these longer millisecond delays if you want to clean up the script. Again, I'm giving this to you guys to modify however you need it. Okay, so if you want. The Ducky site's linked there. The device is, what is it, 50 bucks?
It's $49 if you're buying 1 to 5, and then it goes down incrementally as you buy groups. For those of you that work for public schools, it is way fun to go to your CFO and ask for the credit card to use for the hack shop where you acquire these from.
And your filters will probably block the site.
Yeah, I had to block it for me. Yeah, so
it is seriously a hacking tool.
They also have some other really cool stuff on their website.
they have a lot of pre-canned scripts that can do a lot of things. So like anything, like if you're a PC district and you're doing something that's very redundant, Again, it's just simply following keystrokes.
And if you know how to Google really well, you can find some pretty malicious stuff to Google.
Not that we encourage malicious stuff.
We actually used some of our rubber duckies for some of our MacBook stuff as well, changing SSIDs and things like that, because that's all it is. It's just a dummy keyboard. You plug it in and away it goes.
I had one technician out last summer, and I just came on as a brand new tech director in the district, and we ordered 500 brand new Chromebooks. So I had one tech there, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to do all these." I said, "No." So I brought in a couple students. I had them unbox them because unboxing is the biggest part. So once they were unboxed, we just set them along a table. We had a long table set up. We flip them open, and we go along. And we had, I think we bought 15 of the rubber duckies. We just went along the table and just plugged them in as we went and turned them on. I actually got to turn them on and then plug it in. So it's got to be on first. Plug it in, and it would shut itself off. My script had it set up so it shut itself off. So it enroll it, shut itself off. You can take it even further. In the Google Admin Console, you can actually go in and set a setting in Chrome Management to where you enroll a Chromebook with a certain account. If that account's in an OU, it'll automatically put that Chromebook in that OU. That's a setting in the Admin Console. So in your script, you can go in here and you can use that account to enroll this with this script. So I go in and I set my script up for an enrollment account in Google, move that user into the OU that I want to put all the Chromebooks in automatically, run the script, and then when I go to the next school to do the next step for the next school, I move that user in the Admin Console. I don't have to change my script. I just move that user in the Admin Console, open the next set, rock and roll with the next set, and it's automatically provisioning those in the right OU.
Hey, Mitch, is there a cheaper way to do this?
Okay, so now, like I said, my Scottish friends just recently from Amplified IT came up with another way called Centipede. So they took a Arduino.
Not the human centipede.
Right, no.
Very different in a bad show.
Oh yeah, no, we won't go down that road. All right, so back on track. So what are those things? $8-9 for a small Arduino? Yeah, Tim's got one in his hand right now. With that, it's programmed in, what code is that, C or something? Yeah, in C. So you program in C a script, and they've already done it, they're giving it away. So it's on their webpage, I've linked it here. They're also in the security booth, so they can tell you more about it. The only thing with that is, it's a little more difficult to modify. So it's a little more static, right? So if there's changes, you might need some help. C is a pretty easy programming language to figure out just by looking at it, because it's already there. But a little more static. They've already got it made, and it's cheaper. It comes down to, honestly, how much time you think you're going to have to spend to modify their script or change anything in there for your own environment versus the easier management of the script in Rubber Ducky's script versus your time, right? So the return on investment in that. It's totally up to you, but that's two awesome options to automate that whole process. A lot of districts are paying a lot of money to do. I'm done. I'm cut off.
Yeah, I'll learn my time.
All right.
Just chat. That was awkward. Yeah, I'm lying.
Oh, he's my neighbor, but he's not my friend anymore.
Carl next.
GAM. So the next two tips are dealing with a tool called GAM. How many of you have used GAM previously? That makes me nice. All right, GAM is awesome. You need to use GAM. If you're a GAFE admin, you need to learn GAM because it automates and makes massive processes so much faster. So these are some links to GAM tips, and then the cheat sheet is very handy. You should print this out and laminate it and memorize it and do all that.
The GAM tips is actually Google Doc that we update monthly. We give one GAM tip every month in our GAFE Admin podcast. This month, however, there are 2.
And will we
That's
put
a
the
big
link
tip.
to the GAM tips sheet?
It's here. It's this big type.
It just looks really good.
That's your page. He's talking about the commands page.
Oh, that's there too.
That's here.
Oh, okay.
Everything is built. Stop. All right. So part of beginning the school year is cleaning up users that have left the district, right? So I go through and suspend students and staff within the district using CSV would be the first step, right? So we don't want all those users mucking up everything. So a good way to do that, staff are leaving. In your SIS, you can export a CSV based on date of termination, right? So you have staff. Students, usually it's the seniors that hopefully left. You have to make exceptions for the super seniors. But again, you can export that from your SIS based on graduation or not graduation, right? So you can get a CSV pretty easily from your SIS, and then use a simple GAM command to suspend all those users based on that CSV. And that's what I'm pointing at this screen. Can you all see where I'm pointing at? So that's this command here. So it's a pretty simple command. You're just telling GAM that you have a CSV called suspended students, for example, and then it's going to update the user by that email address. That would have to be the header of that CSV, right? And then you're turning suspension on. Now, step 2 of that is to move those users to a suspended user OU. Now, in my domain, I have 2 because I treat them differently. I have a suspended staff OU because those staff members have probably shared documents and that they are still the owner of. So I don't want to delete those users probably because then all their crap goes away, right? So I have a suspended staff OU that I would move suspended staff to. And then I have a suspended students OU that is cleaned up once in a while. I'll just delete them ever so often when I feel like I want to do that kind of thing, right? So the second command, and this is pretty cool for a couple different reasons, because it's using a complex query to check multiple criteria of that user, right? And then it's doing a pipe to do something else with those results from that query. So I'm going to point at the big screen. So GAM print users query, and in no quotes, we have is suspended as true, and they are a staff member. So this is going to look for any staff members that I have suspended in that first step. And then it's going to pipe, it's going to use the contents of that CSV to then put them in the suspended staff OU, all in one piped command.
Oh, it's okay to Luna.
Right? And then I would do a similar command to the students. I would actually, obviously check all the student org unit paths, or just the overall student org unit path, and then pipe them and move them to the suspended students OU. And then there's some more GAM commands to delete them ever so often, and you could cron job that and automate it, so you don't actually have to go do that. So, yeah, Carl's next.
Yes.
We'll kind of go in rush.
I feel bad for the poor lady that's trying to write that out for you.
Oh,
You haven't used awesome yet. I'd like to see what that looks like in a sketch note. We talked about devices. We talked about how to clean up, get rid of some of our users and suspend them. And there's lots of reasons to suspend users, cleaning up your OUs. We could spend an hour talking about how important it is to set up your OUs, but we do not have that time. So now we're going to talk about creating those new users, okay? Now, if you don't have Active Directory set up or anything like that, in my district, I have roughly 48 to 5,000 students. Everybody gets a GAFE account from kindergarten through actually 1 year past graduation. I do all of the creation of users and moving of users via GAM. We didn't have a directory of any kind in our domain when I got there. Actually, I lied. We had Apple's version of a directory, and we decided to not have that anymore. So what I did is I went down and I sat down and I learned how to use GAM. I know that Chad kind of glanced over the GAM stuff, but it really is pretty simple to get to. You go to that website, you download it, you just teach yourself some simple commands. It goes really, really fast. It's a really, really awesome tool. So what I start out doing is by building a CSV file, you go into your SIS, whatever that is, and create a CSV file with the username, first name, last name, password, whether you want them to change their password, and what OU they need to drop them into. And then you run one simple command. You say, GAM, look at the CSV that I just created, and you have to have the absolute path of that CSV. Okay, so if it's on your desktop or if it's on your C drive somewhere, you have to have that absolute path or it's going to fail. Okay, so you say, GAM, look at the CSV, and then create the users. Look at the username, then the first name, then the last name, then the password. Change password flag, and then what OU they need to be into. Now, this is case sensitive, and for those of you that have difficulty spelling, like myself, if you spell password incorrectly when you're declaring your variables, it's not going to work. They need to match your headers. So down here, change matches change. And then those flags figure this out. So if you go along, it's going to just start grinding through this CSV file. So Jamie will get created. It'll set his password. First time he logs in, it's going to make him change it. And I'm going to drop him into my staff OU, specifically the building that Jamie is assigned to. Okay? Then this second one is an example of a student. So Becky Evans, her password is going to be set. She's not going to be allowed to change her password on first login. She can if she wants, but it's not going to force her to. And then it's going to drop her into that specific student's high school graduation year OU. So that is how we create. Now, I do not go through and clean up that CSV. I dump out all the users in that entire thing, use some spreadsheet food to make the formulas work the way I want, set passwords, usernames, etc. If the user already exists, it won't do anything with it. You just get a little error message, and it'll just keep moving on. So I create this with 5,000 plus lines in it. I set it to run. I go grab a coffee, play some League of Legends, drink some Monster, read people's emails. It's kind of like what we do as tech directors, apparently. And then I check back in and out later time, right? So that's how we mass provision users in our district. So now, what we'd like to do is take the opportunity, 5 minutes, to answer some questions that you might have relative to getting ready for the new school year. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. You said that if you run this, it doesn't change existing accounts. So that means you're going to have to run a separate one for OUs. You can't go in and do it. Like when you run this, it's not going to change it. So if you have an OU change, it's not going to change it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So the question was, if it's not if the user already exists, it won't move it. It won't do anything. So if there is an OU change, you'll need to do another one, and that command is actually gam update user instead of create.
Yeah, the reason it won't change it is because we're using the create and not the update, and it knows if it already exists, it can't create it, so it stops right there.
Do you have a recommended method for the authentication?
Do we have a recommended method for the
Barcode.
oh, the barcode creation? I will put on this slide deck the URL that I went to. Yep.
In the back.
So the question is on this slide right here, is it an absolute path to staff, or does it recursively go through anyone inside of staff? Is that what you're asking?
Like, let's say I want to train students, but I also in that student.
Okay, it goes recursive, so it's staff down inside the OU.
With the top level, or however granular.
So as far up as you want in your OU structure is where it will go. Anything below it gets checked. Great question. One more?
How much time do we have?
Oh, they put the red light in the back. We got 2 minutes. Any other questions? Yeah, up front?
Can you talk about the best practice for OU structure? Like you're using graduation year or maybe grade level?
Yeah.
Actually, the best thing to do, and I'm not trying to brush over your question, but inside the GAFE Admins community, this has been discussed, and there actually is an image that talks about the best, or what most people are looking at. It starts with your OU, and then you break it down by staff and student, and then under student, it's usually by either building, and then under building by grade level, or depending on what you have there, but in the end, it's graduation year.
You determine grade, by graduation year or by grade if you automate. So if you're automating, you want to go by grade because you're automatically moving students from that OU out, so you're not having to manually do that. If you're manually managing, then by graduation year, they're still in that container. You're just moving the container.
Yeah, and there is a graphic on the community that is a great graphic.
We have time for one more, Becky? All right, right up here.
Did any of you start with a hybrid environment first with GADS and GAM, or did you using GADS first?
So
I'm a hybrid Active Directory now with GADS, and I got into GAM. I don't want to abandon GADS yet. So
it kind of depends on your situation. So if you are excluding, because you can exclude sections of Active Directory or sections from Google, either way, from GADS, if you're excluding, then it's gonna exclude it. It's gonna ignore that section. So if you're still running GAD or GAM underneath that section, right, then it's not gonna matter because GADS isn't looking at it anyways. But if you're overlapping, then whatever GADS runs, it's gonna run, right? So that simulation tool in GADS is your best friend. So make sure that you test that first. So you're making sure that you get your exclusions into the way you want them.
And the GADS is up to date.
Yeah. Oh, all right, in the back.
So, since school doesn't yet create classrooms that teach it automatically, is something you use again?
The question is, I'm just repeating it because we're stuff. It still doesn't create classrooms automatically. Is there a GAM command to create classrooms for teachers? Is that what you're asking? For student rosters.
I haven't done it. There's.
I haven't done it. However, there are some tools out there. Andrew Stillman made a really, really awesome one that you build a CSV for it, and it's just an extension to Google Sheets. If you want to have some more questions about that one, check out Amplified IT. Check out their booth.
They're going to be in the playground.
In the playground. Yeah, so you could do a GAM command to do it, but that's a lot of work, so I wouldn't do it that way. I would do it with the other tools, for sure. Okay, I think we're done. So thank you very much, everybody. We had a good time. Hope you guys have a good one.
Thanks, guys, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was way over my head, but still, it's good to hear those terms and like the resources are helpful
Yeah, well,
to share with other people.
That's why I did like the barcode one.
Yeah,
Because
that's good.
that shouldn't be over.
Yeah.
And that's easy to do. I'll put the link on there for the URL.
Yeah. No, and just having those resources to pass on to people, because I don't need to be the expert in this.
Oh yeah.
But it's like you guys are, so you know.
Now we know.
Yeah, exactly. Thank
We
you.
know a guy.
I gotta put this table back.
Jeff, Lance Lennon, pleasure to meet you. Yeah.
I think there's a panel at 1 that needs yours too.
Oh, okay.
You ready?
Where'd my table go? Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. To pop the room for the next session. Thank you.
I will in just a moment.
Just leave the seats so I can do this.
Leave the seats?
If you want to stick around, I'm going to get you your Chromecast for Christmas.
Awesome, cool.
Thank you. I didn't know that.
Here's your cord. It's not very well rendered. That's okay.